I, Ray Dickey from South Carolina CAI and Hudson Valley CAI and Association Help Now, covering a bunch of different states today. I know all the marketing materials said that we'll be here 2 hours, which is the game plan. But I know that the GoToWebinar system said 1 hour. So if that was confusing for people, sorry about that. I can't go back and fix it once it's live. So what happened is I had worked in advance and got a lot of this stuff set up and forgot to change that. So there'll probably be a couple more kinks in the system as we go forward here. We're going to have a lot of people come in and out as we go through the programs, because I'm not going to make everybody get here an hour early like the attorneys. They'll be back on in a little while, some of them, for the other segments. So I don't want to drive everybody crazy with that or make them log in at 10:20 when they're not really going to be needed until like 11 o'clock. So you're going to see a lot of people kind of coming in and out to kind of work around that. We have 3 topics today. The top 10 reasons it sometimes stinks to be a manager or a board member. And I know Tammy's working on her webcam. So Tammy, just keep in mind you'll be live when you get it figured out. And utilizing 4 resident behavior styles. It's just interesting stuff that we like to do, and it may help you with communicating with people. And then tough questions, and they are tough. So I'm going to use questions that I got from the audience that we never got to, questions that you asked today, audience, and I hope you ask a lot of them. And I threw some in there that I think are particularly thought-provoking, because you know how hard I like to make the lawyers work. So, right, Greg? I love it.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Next week, there's no live stream because there's a bunch of live events. There's 7 events in 4 days. Sean, are you going to be at all of them?
I will be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's Myrtle Beach. Then the next day it's Charleston and Hilton Head. Then the next day it's Columbia and Greenwood. Then the next day it's Greenville and Rock Hill. I don't think I missed any. So it's always a fun kind of trip. July 2nd, I've got a great speaker lined up. His name is John Wood, and he wrote this book all about AI. To be honest with you, I didn't read the book, but I did trust ChatGPT to tell me about it. So I think he's going to be able to answer a lot of questions about AI. He's known for this. He's also an attorney, and he's a professor and a bunch of other great stuff. So I'm really looking forward to this segment on July 2nd, and we'll probably spend as much time as we need with him. And it's a great book, and it's his 2nd or 3rd book. So supposedly he really knows his AI, and that would be great. And I spoke to him, and he sounds terrific. Before I have our panel introduce themselves, I'm going to launch a poll. Here it is. If you need CEUs, click away. If you are from Florida, you are going to get an email either today or tomorrow. You have to do one extra step. You have to fill out another survey. It takes about 2 minutes, but you do need to do it if you want to get your CEUs for Florida. So just make sure that you go ahead and do that. Everyone has a question feature. That's how you communicate with us today. Please communicate. Please communicate. Dave Byrne is saying help. I don't know why. I don't know if he's stuck and his internet is out or what is it.
That was from earlier.
Oh, that was from earlier? Okay. The question feature is the best way. Comments, anything you want to send me. I don't use anyone's name, so feel free to ask whatever you would like to ask. If I close the poll for the CEUs too quickly, which I just did, don't worry. Just use the question feature and say, hey, Ray, I need polls. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have our panel introduce themselves with who I see first, and that is Greg.
Good morning, everyone. Greg Girelli with Girelli Insurance Agency. We're located in Cold Spring, New York. We're an independent insurance agency that has master insurance policy programs for condos, co-ops, and townhomes throughout the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania.
All right. Tom.
I am Tom Ingblom. I'm with First Citizens Bank. We do lockbox services, lending. We're a nationwide bank. I cover multiple states for them, and happy to be here.
All right, excellent. Sean.
Good morning. My name is Sean O'Connor. I'm an attorney. I'm a shareholder with the law firm of Clarkson, McAlonis, and O'Connor. Our office is in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. We cover the entire state of South Carolina, all regions of the state. We have a full service community association law practice. I'm very active with our South Carolina CAI chapter. I've been a member of the chapter since '08. I've been on the board since 2020. I was the president of the chapter in 2023, and also serve on our state's Blue Ribbon panel, and I'm a member of the CAI National Business Partners Council.
Yeah, like I always say, there's nothing that Sean's not doing right now. You know, Tammy, I think I'm going to let you go, and we'll catch you next time. All right?
Sorry, my camera is not working. I don't know what's going on.
All right, you could just log out, and we'll have you back for sure. That
All
way,
right,
it's you're welcome. Dave.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Byrne. I'm an attorney. I run my law firm's community association practice, and my group and I, we represent HOAs, condominiums, and cooperatives in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania.
All right, so Kevin, I'm just meeting. Never met Kevin. We've never met, right?
Never met before.
I've never spoken to you. I don't know anything about you. I don't even know if you're the real Kevin.
It's me. It's me.
Somebody. All right. Why don't you tell us who you are, please?
How you doing? Good morning. My name is Kevin Bose. I am with First Service Residential. I am an on-site manager right outside of Philadelphia area, Newtown Square, PA. I've been a manager for almost 10 years now with a few different companies, and I am a CMCA and an AMS manager.
Excellent. You know, I didn't have a chance, Kevin, to tell you how we like to do the live streams. So, Greg, what do I always tell you guys? So tell Kevin how I like to do the live streams.
Oh, Ray is going to set you up with some of these questions and surprise you and expect you to react. And it gets very interesting, but just relax and go with it. And hopefully he won't set you up like he does David Chetsky, but we shall see what happens here. Since he hasn't seen one, he doesn't know.
But what do I always say about having short answers? And if I start getting fidgety, what about that?
I knew you remember that. Watch Ray's body language if he's shooing you because you're too long-winded. He wants short answers. We move on from each one and save some info for the next person to talk about. We're pretty easygoing here. We bat things back and forth and help each other out.
Yeah, you can always get to your whole thought process, Kevin, but because people are watching on their computers, it's not like being face to face with people. So we got to give people like a mental break. So that's basically why I'm always rushing people. But you can get to your whole thought process. Now, the other thing that happened, Kevin, there were supposed to be 3 other managers here to help you do this segment with me. And guess what happened? One, you're on your own. One had an emergency. The other one had an emergency, and poor Tammy couldn't log in. So you're like completely on your own with me for this upcoming segment, but don't worry, it'll be fine. So everybody stay here for a second.
And I'll give you Ray's last piece of advice, Kevin, is change the names and don't give anything too specific if you're going over anything in a question.
Ooh, that's an important one. Yeah, don't use we don't want to we wouldn't really get in trouble for it, but just as a courtesy, you would know that anyway as a manager. You know, we don't, if we're going to tell a story, we just want to make sure we don't tell it where it's identifiable, right? So you can change the story around a little bit so it's the same story and it's truthful, but just so we kind of protect people's identity. Don't use people's names, but you probably knew that already as a manager. The book, it's really popular. It's free. You should make a request to get it. You can use the poll. I know I'm getting through a lot of stuff here. Or you could use your question feature. Oh, I think I found it right here. If you would like the book, you can get it as a PDF, you can get it as an ebook, or you can get it as a hard copy. I think everyone here is in this book. So you can just go ahead and request it, and you can always use your question feature to give me a heads up. A lot of people have already asked me for it. So, and we're going to come out with one every quarter. And it's about 130 pages, but the next one's going to be like so much cooler. It's going to have like links. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. It's going to be really cool, but it's basically a summary of all our live streams in the written form. Kevin, can I send you a book?
Absolutely.
Will you read it from cover to cover and then give us a review?
Yeah, report back.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Thanks for everybody that filled out the poll. Much appreciated. Everybody's got a packet. It's got all the contact. Oh, so much to go over nowadays, ever since we've expanded the program. There's a packet. It's got everybody's information. If you want Tom's book, you can find it in there, I think. The panelists are in there. The sponsors are in there. Boy, I think I finally got to everything. I'm going to do the questions during the Q&A. There's just no reason to jump into them right now. So the first segment, and I've done this segment probably 6 times, is the top 10 reasons that sometimes it stinks. And I'm just going to keep everybody if that's okay. Now, Dave, you are ready. You're waiting for a meeting, right, Dave Byrne?
Yeah, I have to
You
go
had to
into a
run
meeting
into
after the
you're actually
session.
at a Wegmans right now, right? So if anyone sees
Yes.
anything weird,
Yes.
it's not your office.
The burger department.
You're in the burger department. Okay. Because Dave has a
That's
meeting.
what the sign says.
Okay. And but Dave was nice enough to make sure that he got here. So much appreciated. All right, here we go. And audience, please start sending me your top 10 reasons it sometimes stinks. I'm not trying to say it's a horrible job or anything like that, but you know, we do like to bring up some things and see what everyone's feeling. And this is a very, very popular segment. Oh, it looks like a cocktail lounge. Dave, people are questioning you whether or not you are really at a Wegmans. They think that you're possibly at a cocktail lounge or another kind of location where there's dancing
I
takes
mean,
place.
there's maybe in like 1978. I don't know if this decor would go in a bar right now, but
All right. We'll get to work. All right, we'll get to work now. All right. So what I did is I broke them down, board members and managers, because it's different. And by all means, audience, tell me if I'm wrong or throw in these other suggestions. I would love them. Number 10, and it's 10 is not the worst, and 1 would be the worst, is boards have limited authority, which means it's kind of like you're on this board, but you're not king and you can't do everything that you want to do, and it prevents you from getting things done that you want to get done. So, Kevin, do you find that a lot of board members sometimes don't understand that there's going to be limitations to their power?
I think that absolutely happens. I think they get in that role and they think they can make changes almost instantly, but it has to go through certain processes for things to take form, and big things take longer. So yes, I think so.
And that could be probably very frustrating for them, especially maybe they get on the board for a particular reason, right, Kevin? They run on a certain platform. I want to have ice cream at the pool at 12 o'clock on Sundays, and then everybody's like, no, we're not going to have ice cream, or we can't have ice cream because the lawyer says somebody could slip and fall on it, right? So that must be frustrating for them, Kevin.
Yeah, and in some circumstances, if something that they got on the board to change doesn't get changed, then they lose that spirit, and that kind of makes it hard for them to work with after that point.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that. Oh, the other thing I wanted to tell you, Kevin, since I have time to talk to you previous, you don't have to talk about your personal experiences. I don't want to put you on the spot. You could talk about the industry as a whole. This way you won't get yourself in any trouble. Okay. So,
Sounds good.
but you can make it personal if you want, but it's up to you. I don't want to put that. Managers, limited authority. Tom, you've been in the industry for about 65 years at this point. You were a manager. You teach the CMCA course all around the country. Managers also must find it frustrating that they don't have the power that maybe they feel they should have. Do you agree?
Agree. And actually, tomorrow will be 67 years that I've been in the industry. So we're plugging right along. But yes, managers have limited liability. They have to follow the governing documents. They have to follow the state statute that they're in. So they're very, very limited.
I'm getting feedback. It really stinks to have different directions from warring members of the board. Wow, I didn't have that one on there. Yeah, that's actually a really good one. I'm going to have to add that one to my list. And it really stinks when you get the same offenders, like with lawns, all the time. Every day is a struggle with the same cast of characters. All right, next one, number 9 is Sean. Boards get burned out. And managers have maybe too many responsibilities. Do you like this one for number 9, Sean?
I mean, I think it's a common phenomenon. It's, sometimes it's, I find myself in a role of having to give board members a pep talk and ask them to hang in there, and because, their service is needed. It's not always easy to find replacement board members or find somebody else that's willing to do the work. So to overcome those frustrations and hang with it and get the job done is sometimes a challenge. And yeah, when a board is not operating at full capacity, that puts more burden and responsibility on the manager, makes the manager's job tougher. So yeah, all around, that's a tough one.
The audience is saying managers get burned out too, especially when the boards go rogue. I could see why annoying boards would make a manager get burned out. Kevin, I'm going to go to you last, and I'm going to ask you for one suggestion. If you can't come up with it, it's fine. You have no rehearsal here. We didn't give you any warning on maybe one item a board could do to cut back on the burnout. Okay. And I'll swing back over to you in a second. We do burnout programs all the time. Greg, you see it? Any commentary? How about multiple responsibilities for managers?
Oh, that's one of the biggest problems with managers. They're asked to be an expert basically in every single field and to know everything, and they're asked to fix and learn and answer everything. And they've got to know to utilize, obviously, they're professionals, and to delegate those responsibilities out to handle that better.
Dave, we tell them they're supposed to be experts in everything, but then we also tell them, be careful. You're not really an expert in this and that. And that could be tricky for managers. And a little unfair. Do you agree, Dave?
Yeah, definitely tricky, definitely unfair. Managers individually are trained, certified, generally, experienced people, but they're like any other profession. They have their skills and their role, and that's where they should stay. And it's very difficult when a board expects a manager to do more, and a lot of times that's really like a financial thing where a management company correctly recommends that the board hire some particular person with expertise, and a board member will be like, why do we hire you then? That kind of sort of silly response. That would be very challenging.
Audience is saying it's annoying when the board tasks me with a project and then they go in a different direction once I've done all the work setting it up. Kevin, have you ever seen that in your career?
I can count on a lot of hands how many times that has happened in my career.
What do you think about manager burnout? Did you come up with one? If you didn't, it's fine. Put you on the spot. One item, one suggestion?
For manager burnout,
I'm sorry, board member burnout. You're right. Thank you.
I think if a board understands their role off the bat and understands what they're there to do, that helps them, kind of create a path to get there. And I think also relationships. I mean, if the manager or managers can develop a relationship with the board, they want to work with that person. It becomes a little bit easier to do and to work with every day with somebody that you like than somebody that you don't.
And then I think everybody's in our industry. I think a lot of people would be in agreement that managers, do you think in our industry they have too many responsibilities or they just have too much plain work? I'd be interested in what the audience says also. Kevin, I'm not putting you on the spot, but in our industry, do you think managers have too much responsibilities or just too much work, or do you think it's both?
I mean, there's a lot that has to get done that just, gets swept under the rug. I don't think it's too much work because, all that work is needed in order to run an efficient community. It's just, understanding how much has to get done for that to happen is overwhelming sometimes.
Okay. And then, Tom, I'm going to come back to you on this one. Somebody's a short answer because I don't want to get sidetracked. Advice on how to educate a new board member. Then I'll swing back to you on that, Tom. And managers have too much work. A lot of people are saying it's just too much work, not too much responsibilities. Kevin, real quick too, I'm assuming that managers don't mind taking on responsibilities, right? As long as they're paid for it and it's clear what their responsibilities are and they're qualified to do it. Would you agree?
As long as the direction is clear, yeah. I mean, personally, I don't have a problem doing it. But somebody had mentioned, I guess, in the chat that, you do all this work and then the board changes direction. I think those are one of the ones that you want to try to avoid as much as possible in the initial stages. And that gets frustrating from time to time.
It's embarrassing to have to go back to the vendor and explain that the board has decided to go to a different direction. I bet that is, especially when the vendor spent a lot of time probably working with you. So many frustrations, but for me, people complaints that can only be addressed by changes to the master deed. but we can't get enough votes to make any changes, and the issues continue. What? You're not a magician. You just can't do whatever you want and not follow. I bet half the people don't even know that the master deed exists in the association. All right, Tom, quickly, what was your suggestion?
Well, several quick ones. CAI has a course called Basic for Board Members. There's a lot of information out there, but what I would do as an owner of a management company, I would require all of my new board members to take an education course through the management company, and you train them how to be more successful with reading financials, how to run a board meeting, etc.
Yeah, I know a management company that just did that, and I got to be part of the program for a little while, and they did it. It was a large management company. I think it worked out great for them. They were actually encouraging their managers to get their CMCA. Okay, number 8 is high expectations, and for managers, legal complexities. Board members, yeah, people, I guess they vote for you and they expect you to fix everything. Sean, you probably see this all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, and this one kind of overlaps onto the burnout too. I mean, if possible, it's an excellent idea for the board to form committees to delegate some of the work and just have more people join in the process, so that you know, so much of the burden isn't on the shoulders of a small handful of board members. You know, for the manager, I'm going to defer to what Tom said on this one as well. You know, it is complex. There's a lot to it, but there's a lot of educational resources available. Our managers do a great job at getting their education units by attending these webinars as well as our in-person events. But I think they would tell you that their job is very complex and requires continuing education to stay on top of the issues and up to speed.
And then, you know, Dave, legal complexities. Once again, I think, well, let me go to Kevin first. It can be hard on managers, right? Because you don't want to call the lawyer for every little thing. And then half the time I'm having these live streams, Kevin, and I'm like scaring managers, right? Like, oh no, if you don't do this, you know, this awful thing's going to happen. But the reality is it's tough because do you call the lawyer? You can't call over every little thing. In our industry, Kevin, do you think that is the case, or do you think I'm off base on that? And it's fine if I'm off base, by the way.
I think, yeah, you don't want to pull that card every single time. I mean, experience helps a lot with that. You know, there's certain circumstances that, you know, you come across that you can circle back on and remember what you did in that circumstance. But I don't think I would be fearful to pull the trigger to, you know, contact a lawyer to get their opinion on things. That's what they're there to do, rather than you trying to figure it out for yourself when you have no experience with that.
You know, Dave,
go ahead.
No, you go. Are you done? Sorry.
Well, I was going to say that may end up biting you in the end. So rather be safe than sorry.
You know, Dave, I love when I have you guys on, the lawyers, and Greg knows I love this, and I come up with like my legal statement, and I'm 100% confident that I'm right, and I'm wrong. I mean, can you just wrap up in one word? The law is complicated, and it doesn't always follow common sense. Would you agree, Dave? You need to use your professionals.
Right. That's definitely true. And I think that boards and managers have a very, very strong protective shield for their own liability if they rely upon the advice of experts, and not necessarily lawyers. I mean, engineers, insurance professionals, management company, executives, people like that. Anybody that provides sort of a more of an experienced expert view of something that provides advice is a shield for you if things go wrong down the road, and you can very easily say, "Hey, I relied upon the advice of the expert I hired."
And you know, audience, do you think so far I've done a pretty good job with like numbering these? Because I'm trying to make up to the worst one. Kevin, I'll count on you. And by the way, the rest of the panel loves if you disagree with me. They love it. There's going to be this guy on later, John Lagumia. I'm never right. He never gives me 100% a score. Sean and Dave are a little kinder. Sometimes they'll say you're pretty close, but John's pretty tough. Okay. Number 7 is board members don't get paid. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. sometimes I feel funny about that. Like sometimes some board members really do work hard, and sometimes I feel like they should kind of get paid, but that's never going to work in our industry. Does anyone disagree that that would just be a nightmare? Dave, there's no legal reason, right? Theoretically, there's no law that says board members can't get paid, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but
No, I mean
yeah,
there may actually be laws that prohibit it, but most communities governing documents prohibit board members from taking from being compensated for their service. And frankly, if I were a board member, I wouldn't want my neighbors thinking I was taking any
no,
of their money, even if I deserved it. It's a recipe for nasty Facebook posts. It's just a recipe for disaster. So if you want to volunteer, and but you need to get paid to volunteer, then maybe try something else. That's kind of how I look at it. It's tough though. I understand the dynamic in play, but it's probably something that should be avoided, even if it was appropriate and legal, which it probably isn't anyway.
yeah, you probably couldn't pay yourself enough for all the aggravation and all the things that people would say. So I would imagine. Pressure from the board, Kevin. Yeah, this could be like political pressure. This could be just innocent on behalf of the board, right, Kevin? This is maybe this one deserved to be lower on the list. I don't know.
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, I think that the board members, committee members, and residents all won things yesterday. So, that weighs on you, and, you're doing your best, you're trying your hardest, but sometimes things take time. So that pressure is immense sometimes, especially with big projects.
Yeah, I would absolutely imagine that would be one of the biggest problems. I consider being on the board member a community service. I would not want to be paid. I have an association that doesn't have a master deed. All restrictions are individually assigned to each property. I don't know what that's about, so I'll make a note of that. Maybe we'll do that as a topic. I don't want to spend any time on this, Dave, but have you ever heard of that? All restrictions are individually assigned to each property?
Yeah, that's more like
Okay.
a old school. I mean, it could be
All right.
more like an old school neighborhood scheme kind of thing, where there's no
All right.
document that governs everything, but everybody's deed references a certain list of things they're not
All
supposed
right.
to do.
Sean, you ever see it?
I have, and it can be complicated because a lot of times those type of governing documents, if they were recorded in the 70s or 80s, they might not have provisions in there that allow for an association and assessments to be collected, and there also might be problems amending it, and having a declaration that's applicable to all the lots some years later. So yeah, it's fraught with problems, less than ideal.
All right, I'm going to fly through a couple here because we're already behind schedule. It's my fault though. Decision challenges for boards. It's tough because you got to weigh what the owners want compared to what you have to do. I think everybody would agree fixing the building, like here at my building, they're fixing it, and some of the board members are not very popular. Like it's their fault. It's not their problem, but nobody cares. They just blame the board members. And budget constraints. Kevin, does anyone ever turn to you and say, here, Kevin, here's an unlimited amount of money. Make the place perfect. Has that ever happened?
No, I mean, just like I was saying before, the pressure of trying to keep things within budget, but know that it needs to get fixed is a tough thing that weighs on us. So yeah, that definitely happens.
Liability risks. Sean, I really want to move quickly, but this is something for boards. This is something that could definitely be reduced if you do what you're supposed to do. Can I get a yes answer on that, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're protected by the business judgment rule as long as you're acting in good faith, and deferring to your experts and not getting outside your lane, not committing any fraud or willful misconduct. You're protected by the business judgment rule, but you see a lot of instances where people do engage in those type of behaviors. So that's when liability can be incurred.
Yeah, and I feel bad when they do it and they just didn't know any better. And Greg, really quickly, that does happen. I mean, they didn't mean anything bad by it. The board just didn't know any better.
Correct. Yeah, you're volunteering for this position and you don't get paid for it, but the disadvantage is you could get sued for any of the decisions that you're making. And that's when your insurance comes into play.
Tom, should have put manager emergency availability as number one? What do you think Kevin's going to say?
Yes.
Okay. Kevin, What do you think? I mean, we don't need a big explanation about this one. Should this one have been lower on the list?
It definitely is part of the job, and 99% of the time, it's not an emergency.
And I lost 2 managers today, and I legitimately know they're very dependable. I know that something came up and they can't be here. So it probably involves water, right? Would you agree, Kevin? These things always involve water for some reason.
It's water or neighbor.
Water or a neighbor. Ugh. Board members, criticism and complaints. I'm not going to spend any time on that. That's pretty obvious. I'm sorry it happens. The manager being the messenger. We've already heard from a manager in the audience that they hate it when they have to go tell a vendor that they can't do something. Kevin, managers have to pass the bad news along sometimes, right?
Yeah, without throwing the board under the bus is the important part, though. So, you have to be able to communicate that to residents that while, you're not the one who makes the decisions and you're just the message person, here's why the decision was made.
I hope I remember this, audience, because I would love to do a program on how to do that. If you're a manager, how to explain a situation and not throw the board under the bus, because you got to keep your company happy. You got to protect your own reputation, but you can't throw the board under the bus. It's tough, right, Kevin? I meant,
yeah, absolutely.
It's a skill. Some managers are great at it and some of them just aren't. I've seen some managers that have been fantastic at that. And it's not about lying or cheating or anything. It's just about doing it the proper way. Conflict resolution for board members if they have to get involved in that. But I think that really gets pushed on to the attorneys. Dave, would you agree at some point the board shouldn't even be involved in this? So I don't even think this belongs on there. Do you agree, Dave? I think it's a mistake.
Well, the boards won't have conflict amongst themselves?
No, conflict resolution between owners. Basically, they're not supposed to be involved in this. So I don't know why I have it down there as number 3.
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends on what state you're in. For instance, New Jersey requires an association to make alternative dispute resolution available to 2 owners, even if it has nothing to do with the association. And then I think, as Sean mentioned in a previous episode, for lack of a better word, there may be a civil rights related dynamic connected with owner versus owner disputes.
I'm not referring to that the board has a responsibility to have action taken. I'm referring to the fact that the board members themselves at some point are not going to be involved in this. That's not part of their job. If there's a situation,
right.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. Sean, you agree with that statement?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, with the caveat that Dave mentioned, yes.
Tom, I'm going to come back to you. Give me one of your most high stress incidents as a manager. Kevin, Tom has been out of the management business for a long time. He's still selling loans to associations, but he can have a little bit more freedom as far as his manager stays. Kevin, do you want to share a high stress situation really quickly, or do you want to wait and see if one pops in your head?
I'm going to see what pops in my head. I got some good stories.
Are they people related, you think the audience is going to go with more than something
I
else?
think people related. Absolutely.
Okay. Number 2 is unappreciated. I think that goes without saying. Tom appreciates me on the panel all the time. He sends me thank you letters, and Greg does. Sean and Dave, a thank you note every now and then would be appreciated. Maybe handwritten. It would be very nice. I'm just letting you know. Okay. Dave's not even, he could care less. Okay. Number 1. Kevin, I don't know how you could possibly guess. Could you guess can you take a wild guess? What would the number 1 problem be for boards and the number 1 reason that I think for managers?
I'm all ears. I don't know.
Time consuming.
That's
Right?
Absolutely.
And manager difficult owner. So Kevin, going back to time consuming, that's kind of like the board member's fault in a way, though. I hate to say it, but in our industry, Kevin, not your boards, do you find that board members could fix this problem if they put some effort into it? In our industry?
They got to be organized. They can't be all over the place. That cuts down on time. So, and utilizing, like I said, the manager. It's hard for a lot of communities to trust their manager to take on tasks. And so, that cuts down on the board's time if they can do that.
Selective enforcement, the audience is saying, I've been asked many times to de-escalate conflicts. When boards have several vendor proposals, but they never make a decision, Timed agendas are excellent for managing meetings. A lot of really good suggestions on these items. Difficult owners, I think, goes without saying. Anybody disagree? Number one problem for managers? All right.
I would add difficult board members too.
Ooh, difficult board members. Yeah. That would probably apply to, is it that they just contact you too much? Would you say, Kevin, in our industry would be the number one?
Boundaries aren't set. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's either contact too much or just, don't appreciate the effort that you're putting in.
Tom sends me up to 25 texts a day just for advice. Do you think, Kevin, that that's too much?
I think that's between you two.
Okay, thank you. All right, Tom, did you come up with any kind of emergency situation?
Well, emergency had a fire, flood, entrapment, and elevator. Those are probably the most stressful ones. Actually had a suicide. So those are very stressful. How you deal with that, and especially the media that comes along.
I was hoping you were going to have a more unique one, but those are definitely
Well, I
absolutely
do have a
stressful.
board meeting one. The most stressful one I had was consistently for over a year. I had a very large association, 900 units in Chicago, where the board meeting would go for 8 hours. Now, there were 15 people on the board, 8 of them were attorneys, so that was probably starting point. And then
oh my God,
other professionals there.
The meeting must have been like 5 hours just to go over one item. Okay. All right. Sorry, Sean and Dave. All right. Oh, I wish you would do a session. The worst combination is ignorant board members and a control freak manager. That does sound like a bad combination. Miscommunication is a big one. Miscommunication. All right. Let's do closing thoughts pretty quick if we can. And I am going to start off with Greg. Greg, what did you think of my number 10 list? Did I forget anything? Or do you think another item should have been number one?
No, I don't think you forgot anything. It was a very good list. It's tough. It's very hard for us to get good board members at community associations, and the ones that want to do it end up stuck on the board for a very long time. And it's a thankless, unpaid job, but you're doing a great job, and we appreciate it because you're making the community a better place.
Kevin, do you see the support that I get from Greg?
Yeah.
He's just like a nice person. He always comes up with a nice comment. It's just, I would just love to work at Girelli Insurance. It would just be wonderful.
He's got your back.
He would just support me all day, tell me how wonderful I am. All right, Tom Engblom, closing thoughts.
I would kind of echo what Greg said. I would train my board members. I would rely on professionals, as Dave and Sean said. And I'm a big proponent of delegation, so I would have as many committees as I could to take the burden off the board. And what do you do by doing that? You train them to become future board members. And the more education board members have, the more professional the meetings are going to be.
Okay, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I think education and training is the answer to so many of these predicaments, and that applies to both board members and managers. Those resources are available. Take advantage of those, and hopefully, rely on your expert professionals. Hopefully, make your job and your life a little easier and a little bit more manageable and bearable.
Dave, what do you think?
My quick closing thought is, and I've said this before, I think managers and board members should focus on what they're there to do, what their role is, what the governing documents require of them, and then that's the end. That's what they do. They're not a police force. They're not counseling services. They're simply there to manage the property, and in the flippant kind of way possible, make sure that things don't burn down and make sure the property values stay up. That's really all that all of us are supposed to be doing.
Dave has a great short video that I threw online, and a couple people emailed me about it. It's really good. He kind of sums up this industry. I'll try to send it to people, but you know which one I'm talking about, right, Dave? I thought you did a great job on that.
Yeah, the nanny state one.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say nanny state, but you're brave enough.
No one remembers Margaret Thatcher except me and Tom. Probably we're the only old ones who remember hers. So.
All right, Kevin. What do you think? It's okay to criticize me because Greg will just make me feel better later. But what did you think? Did we come pretty close to the top 10?
I think the number should be higher than 10 because there's definitely more than 10.
Right.
boards, being on the board and being a manager is a high wire act, like most days. Some days are good, some days are bad, but I guess just having the right mindset and utilizing the tools that are available will help the good days be more than the bad days.
I like it. That's a pretty good one. The good days will be. I guess you're ahead of the game, right? If the good days outnumber the bad days.
I'm
So,
trying.
um, people in the audience does say they do remember Margaret Thatcher. Of course, I also remember Margaret Thatcher. So we're not that young that people may not remember her. There's definitely some people out there. Um,
I
that
think she
may,
coined the I think she coined the phrase nanny state, but I could be wrong.
really, it took that long, but I'm
Yeah, I
surprised.
guess until the 60s and 70s, there probably was no government nanny, so nobody had to come up with it yet.
Oh, okay. Well,
Maybe, but I'm no political philosopher. I just pretend to be one on these shows.
right, but you're very willing to have political opinions, but not we're not going to
Sure,
do it
like
during the live
everybody
stream.
else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
right.
like hearing them.
Everybody
They're
else.
always really, maybe we'll do a live stream, just Dave's political opinions. It'd be really interesting.
Me, you, and the two people that tune in.
Yeah, that'll be it. Yeah, that's true. Okay, we're gonna take a quick break before we go to the next segment, just to give everybody a chance to regroup here and myself a chance to regroup. I think I'm gonna keep everybody on because we lost a couple people, and I see some of the attorneys are on for the next segment. I don't, attorneys, you can log in now if you want, or you can just wait. We'll be done in about 20 minutes for this next segment here. So, um, this is a poll, Kevin. We always do a ridiculous poll. If you could instantly master one skill, what would it be? Okay. And Kevin, your job is to guess what the audience is going to guess before I launch this poll. So, Kevin, what do you think it's going to be? Clapping with one hand, talking to squirrels, turn your hearing on and off, always know which lines move the fastest, and turning your smell on and off. And let me find the poll, and I'm launching it. All right, Kevin, what do you think? I'm going to go through you guys quick. How do you think the audience is going to vote?
Wow. Always know which line moves fastest, I guess.
Okay, Dave, Byrne, you,
Yeah, I
t-
think that's right.
you want to tell me personally? Why don't you guys just tell me? I don't think it's so bad.
Those are all. I mean, those are all crappy options. I don't know that I want any
Yeah.
of them.
See what I mean, Kevin? It's really, really. I just have to call Greg after the live stream just to get back on track. All right, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd go with the line moving fastest. That seems to be the only one that really has any practical benefit.
It's so boring. All right, Tom.
Turning hearing on and off.
Boring. Greg.
I'm going with turning hearing on and off, but as a husband and father, I think apparently I already know how to do that and have that feature.
That's pretty rare for Greg. That's a pretty rare Greg comment there. Okay. I'm gonna run that, Greg. Do it as a video short, if that's okay. No, I'm only kidding. All right. End and share results. So I think everybody can see the way the polls work anyway, but it looks like always know which line moves the fastest. Listen, for the 19% that said talking to squirrels, I'm with you 100%. I think anybody that didn't, if I could talk to squirrels, I would do it all day long. There's squirrels everywhere. And if I had that power and that ability, that 19%, I'm on the same page with you. I would love to talk to squirrels. I don't even see how that was not right away. Oh, people are telling me squirrels would be boring. Talking to them, can you imagine what info? Well, I guess you could have a point. Maybe squirrels would be boring. I don't know. Well, now I'm rethinking things. Maybe you're right. You have a point, audience. I'm still with it. Oh, the others are boring. Okay. All right. So this next segment we're going to do is utilizing 4 resident behavior styles. Kevin, I love these segments. This is where we analyze people. Okay. And we try to come up why people are crazy. And we see if there's the way to, and if people can lead with one part of this, that is fantastic. So there's going to be 4 styles. So I do this. What happens, Kevin, is I do the research on the internet. See, I don't have to be right, Kevin. I don't have to know anything. I'm just a moderator. See, you guys are the panelists. So what's great is I throw any stupid stuff I want back here and I'm done with it. And I just throw it to you guys. So it's like the easiest job in the world. So this is some more stupid stuff I found. and I'm going to throw it back over to you guys, and we'll see if it means anything.
A
So
win-win for you.
it's a win-win for me. Exactly. All right. So, but I do honestly research it. I do. I don't make it up. So there's 4 types of people. There's drivers, there's influencers, there's supporters, and there's analyzers. Anybody on the panel disagree? I think it's pretty close, right? Okay. Everyone agrees. The first step today is for you audience to figure out what you are. And I'm going to show you how to do it in a second. Are you a driver, an influence, supporter, an analyzer? Know your own style. So think for a second, audience. Greg, I would like you to write down what you think you are. Do you have a pen in front of you? If you don't, Tom, if anybody in the panel has a pen, write it down. Dave, I know you don't. We'll just take your word for it. You're at the supermarket, probably hanging out. Okay. And I'm going to launch a poll, and I want to see if it matches. Can you guys fill out the polls too? I don't know if you can, but, and let me find the poll. This new system, I am just finding it so difficult to deal with. Okay. Polls. Here we go. I'm going to launch the poll. Which behavior style are you? And this is going to tell you what you are, right, based on what you fill out. So you're going to have to remember what you filled out. Are you, and nobody sees who does the poll except for me if I run a report. So nobody, and believe me, I don't. Nobody cares. So are you fast? Is your pace fast? And what is your focus? Okay. So your pace, how fast do you work? And what is your focus on? Is your focus on tasks? Is it on people? And there's 4 different combinations. So it looks like the audience is coming in strong on the fast pace, task focused, but fast paced people focused is catching up, and the other ones are pretty far behind. So panel, can you just jot down which one you think you were, remember? And I'm going to end the poll, and I'm going to launch it, and I'm going to share the results. So it looks like, well, by far, fast pace, focused task. Kevin, are you surprised by these audience results being a manager?
No, people have a lot of confidence in themselves, so they think they can tackle tasks fast. And I was thinking it was between that and the people. I didn't know whether or not. So.
Okay, so Greg, what did you put down for yourself?
I put down analyzer.
You are an well, I should have asked you, what did you put down as which option did you pick?
Oh, fast pace and task.
No, you would be a driver.
And focus.
According to the internet, you would be a driver. None of them are bad. There's nothing bad.
Okay.
Sean, what did you put down?
I would say fast task as well.
So you're a driver. Okay. Tom, you just made everything go out of order. You like to confuse me like that. Okay. Tom, what did you put down?
Well, I think you would know what I would be a D. I would be fast-paced, a driver.
No, if you're asking me my opinion of you, I would say that you would be fast-paced and a people person. I would put you down as an influencer.
I don't think I am.
Anyone in the audience that knows Tom Ingbloom, please send me what you think Tom Ingbloom is. We'll see if anyone
not by
knows it.
Not by the polls and education I've done.
Okay, well, we're not going to have an argument about it. You would know yourself better than I would. All right, maybe. Dave.
I was kind of confused by the assignment. I thought I was a driver, but I wasn't sure what the people and focus thing was. Is it about how fast I do stuff? I was confused by the whole thing. So
Kevin.
I apologize.
The lawyers have so many questions. Like we'll come up with a stupid thing. Do you like dogs or cats? And I'll get asked 1,000 questions.
I gotta have the rules and the specifics before I can commit to anything.
Dave, I'm not even going to ask him anymore, Kevin. I'm just going to leave him out of these things because he never, right? You agree, right, Greg? Dave never participates. He always has a problem. You agree? I'm not making it up, right, Greg?
I take the fifth.
Okay. All right. Kevin, do you want to share what you put down? You don't have to if you don't want to share. Do you want to share what you put down for yourself?
Driver.
Yeah, but what was your pace and what was your,
See, he's confused too. I told you.
no, what did you put down for your pace and your focus?
Fast on both. Fast and task oriented.
So you were right. You're a driver. Okay, here we go. Pretty quick. Drivers and audience, send me what you think if you were you right about what you were. But why don't you wait to see? Drivers like to get things done. Let's just get it done. Influencers, let's have fun with it. A supporter, let's all work together. I don't think we had many supporters. And an analyzer, let's do it right. And really quick, if you want to do well with these people, so the whole point of today is when you're working with someone who's a problem kind of resident, you want to think of what kind of person they are. And you want to see if you can communicate with them the way they like to be communicated with. Kevin, do you think this is even possible in our industry?
If you work at it.
Exactly. Kevin, I like you on the panel already. Thank you. If you work on it, if you practice these things, they sometimes can help you. You want to mirror the other person's pace and focus when you're communicating with them on an issue. Okay? You want to mirror the other person's pace and focus. The tools are listen for clues. Are they straight or are they just telling stories? Kevin, do you ever have a resident and you're just like, oh my God, get to the point?
All the time. Probably happened today.
Okay, there you go. And the audience is probably saying they wish I would just get to the point, but that's fine. Do they focus on people or processes? Heard and respected. You communicate. Are they way more comfortable? Are they comfortable with what you're talking about? With drivers, so now you're going to get some tips. For drivers, be brief and action orientated. With supporters, slow down and focus and reassurance. And then adjust your ask, rephrase, request based on listeners' behavior style. By the way, I will send you this if you want it, audience. If you just let me know, I'll send it to you. Here's what needs to happen and why it has to happen. That's how you communicate with the driver. Greg, why don't you read this one? Influencer.
We'd love your help. This could make a big difference.
Do you think that would work, Greg?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Dave Byrne because he hates these things. Dave, supporter. Can you read that?
No, it's
Okay.
I can't. I can only read some of the words.
All right. We really value your support. Can we work together? Same thing. That is how you should work with a supporter. An analyzer. Here's the data and timeline. Are you seeing the plan here? Kevin, do you think the audience is seeing what the point we're trying to get across here is?
There's different ways you can get to the finish line.
Right. There's different ways to communicate with people. Tom, I don't want to go into a whole other segment, but you do have a PhD and something somewhat related like this. And these are all steps that you could take on how to work with people. And I'll probably just send this to the audience instead of going through all of them because I don't want to waste people's time. Tom, mirroring people and how they communicate. I know you shouldn't feel that people shouldn't feel that they should have to do it, but it works. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree.
Okay. Do you agree it's worth, if you're in this business, spending time maybe learning some of these theories?
I agree 100%. I teach the course. In fact, my recommendation will be that everyone that's a board member should take a DISC assessment, and then that will allow the manager and the board to know how to communicate with that person and come up with a common good to achieve the goals that they need.
And a lot of people are actually asking this for their staff also. So I will definitely send this. I think I'm going to launch a poll to see anybody that wants. It's just send it in the question feature if you want.
There's actually a free assessment that they can take online, and it'll tell them. And I could send that link to you.
Why didn't you tell me before we did the segment? We could have done it with you guys live. That would have been fun.
Well, next time.
Okay. Kevin, am I speaking in a way they will hear or just the way I want to say it? I think that's a pretty good item for a manager to think about. Or do you just think it's stupid, Kevin? What do you think?
No, I think it works. Personalities are different, so you got to be able to work with that person's personality.
Dave, do lawyers, I just thought of this. Lawyers must use this skill. Don't you think you have some of these skills, Dave and Sean? I'll go to Sean too, and you don't even realize it?
I guess. I guess. I mean, a friend years and years ago, a friend of mine who was telling me something, and he stopped himself and said, "Are you listening to me, or are you just waiting to talk?" And I've never forgotten that. So I try to I try to remember when I'm listening to a client or something, if I'm giving off a vibe of I'm actually listening, or I'm just waiting until I can say what I want to say anyway, and what they say doesn't matter.
Sean, I don't know if Dave's giving himself enough credit. What do you think? I think lawyers are I think they've learned this skill set. Am I speaking in a way they will hear or just the way I want to say it? What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I gather that Dave has refined communication skills and
He
is
does.
very capable of making people feel comfortable in order to talk to them, elicit the information he needs, and give them confidence, and also prepare them for whatever the purpose is for the interaction.
Yeah, I think lawyers aren't giving themselves enough credit for this skill set. And I think you guys have it without knowing it. Tom, you're nodding your head. You agree with me?
Yes, and I agree what Sean said about Dave, about how he's very attuned with his communication skill, kind of like a chameleon, adapt to that individual to follow what he needs to get accomplished.
So, Dave, do you want to give yourself more credit now? Because we're all praising you. It rarely happens, but we are. We think you have this skill
No,
set. And
I appreciate that. I think I do. Like I said, I just try to I try to remember what I'm doing, where I am in the moment, and make sure I'm focused on things.
okay. Greg, what do you think about this? I think this is the most important comment during this session.
I do too. Communication's key, and it is a skill set for someone when they're speaking to you to make sure they feel what they said was heard and that they're not going to repeat themselves or get louder about it. Having that person communicating with you, like really understanding that what they were saying was heard and understood, and now you're going to take the next steps to work on or discuss and go further, is the first key step.
Okay. And the last one is shift your mindset from, you're going to see some other panelists logging in soon. And panelists that are logging in, you're logging in live. Just keep that in mind. Shift your mindset from reactive to strategic. So I think these are the two key points here. Kevin, as a manager referring to the industry, what do you think about this segment? I mean, I think if people just actually think about this, they can actually take away something from it.
Yeah, I mean that slide that you have there is pretty important for all managers. I mean, when you first start, you're very reactive. You don't know stuff. You haven't been through situations. But as you start to develop that skill, being able to look around the corner and see what could possibly happen, and being like you say, strategic, and trying to get out of your comfort zone on things is going to help you be a little bit more successful. So that has definitely happened for myself. I try to look for innovation in things rather than just stick what I know works right now.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And I don't know if anybody has any closing thoughts or not. I'll just go once again. I'm not going to launch the poll for this. If you want this, I did print these slides out for you. There's a big disclaimer on them because I wasn't going to sit here and go through all the different steps. But if you pick up one or two items from this, I think it could be really helpful. I do. That's why I like to do these segments. And people actually do get in touch with me every now and then and tell me that they did utilize one of the skill sets and it helped out. So just use Request a Feature or email me later. Whatever you would like to do is fine with me. All right. So we're going to go to our next segment, but we're going to take another break. But before I do, I see two of our panelists have logged in, which is awesome. And Harmony, this is the first time I'm meeting you also, right?
Yes. Nice to meet you.
How you doing?
I'm great.
Okay. Where are you from and what do you do?
I'm a partner with Law Firm Carolinas in North Carolina, and I pretty much just practice community association law because I'm a nut.
Yeah, well, you're with a lot of other nuts then. So, Joe, nice to see you again.
Hey, what's up, Ray?
Yep, your phone is off. It's different, but we'll see if we can get through it today. But why don't we try it? Why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. Joe Thompson with Acrisure, specializing in community associations down in Florida. A lot of condominiums, HOAs, co-ops, timeshares. Been doing this for about 12 years.
Okay. Now, Harmony, everyone else is used to this. Kevin's new. He's not used to this. Kevin's wondering, what am I doing here? Before we go to the big Q&A segment, we're going to take a break and we're going to offer our audience some love advice. Don't worry. I'm not putting Kevin and Harmony, I'm not putting you on. Don't worry. I'm not asking you to. We've done this. Oh, someone just left because they were afraid. Maybe there was a spill on aisle 5 and Dave had to take care of it because he was at a Wegmans. I'm not sure. Okay. So, Corey's here. All right. Corey has seen this before. And Corey, Corey's love advice is actually very good. But anyway, we're not going to put you guys on the spot personally. But audience, here is the love advice problem. And we're going to see if you could help this person out. You're on a first date and they start scrolling through their phone right in the middle of when you're talking. This is your first date. Your first date, Kevin. What is your move? What are you going to do about this? Do you pull out your phone and scroll too? Do you ask if everything's okay? Do you make a joke about that you're boring? Do you end the date early or do you pretend not to notice? And we're going to run through this really, really quick. So I'm going to launch the poll and I am going to, I hate my new system. All right, quickly, panel, how do you think our audience answered? I am not going to put you on the spot on this. Greg.
I think it's number 2. You ask if everything is okay and do they need time to take care of something and point it out.
I knew that would be Greg's opinion because he's like a caring kind of person like that. I knew it. Tom.
I would pretend not to notice. None of my business.
Oh, I think it's totally your business, but okay. Sean.
Yeah, I like asking if everything's okay, or just stop talking if they're not listening.
Oh, all right. Now everybody, don't copy Greg unless you really mean it. Okay. Kevin.
Well, it's been a while since I've been on a first date, but I would make a joke about being boring.
I like that one. Harmony, did you think there was any chance today you would be asked this question on this live?
I did not. I think I would probably be so shocked. I would be enraged.
So you would leave, end the date early.
Leave. I'd probably just get up and leave.
Corey.
I would ask if everything's okay.
Joe.
Yeah, I mean that's a lack of chemistry right there. I think there's clearly a disinterest in the other party. So I think maybe nicely ask if everything's okay, and then kind of make it the last date as well.
Joe, wow, that was a really sophisticated. You really could offer love advice. That was like a really good answer. John, when was the last time you? John, when was the last time you were on a first date?
I plead no memory of that.
Okay, what do you think? The audience answer. Did you not hear it? If you didn't, we'll just skip it.
30 years.
Never mind. Okay, I was asking you about the poll. All right, so our audience by far said 70% ask if everything's okay. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm gonna agree. I don't know if Harmony was talking for herself. It doesn't matter, or the industry. I would be so annoyed, Harmony. Maybe I would ask if everything's okay, and I would just leave. You know what I mean? I'm not putting up with that malarkey.
There are a lot of people out there.
But I haven't had a first date for 45 years. So, yeah. So, anyway. Okay. Corey, any commentary, legal commentary on this topic?
No, I mean, maybe they have a child and the babysitter's texting or something. It might not always be bad.
I know. I think Greg started us off on that track. I think if he didn't, everyone would have been going with the other answers. All right, we're going to go to our, of course, if it wasn't a date. Oh, it did happen to somebody. It caught me off guard. Okay. A lot of people are saying this has actually happened to them. Sean did that at the annual conference. I don't know what that means, Sean. Do you have any idea? Were you on a date? Were you on a date at the annual conference and did that to someone? Somebody wrote that.
I'd like
Seriously.
to know. Yeah, tell them to text me. I'd like to know what they're talking about.
Have you been dating Sean O'Connor? I would love to hear all about it. Please send me details. We'll throw it on here in a heartbeat. All right, let's have our panelists who are new here before we go to the segment. I lost Dave Byrne at the most critical point, so I guess he lost his connection. Dave, I hope you can make it back. Oh, he's coming back. Yay. Okay. Harmony, you did introduce yourself. Corey, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Corey Kravitz. I'm the managing partner of Kovich, Schifrin, Nesbitt's Florida office. We're a community association law firm, statewide, nationwide, whatever you need, let us know.
Okay. John.
John Legumina from the Legumina Law Firm in Purchase, New York. We represent condominiums, HOAs, co-ops from New York City throughout the Hudson Valley areas.
And then, so Kevin, Harmony, and Joe, a lot of people are new for you. So really, for less than 30 seconds, I'll go by really quick. Greg Girelli is with the Girelli Insurance Empire up in New York State. They came over with the Pilgrims, and they're actually really nice. Tom Ingblom is a doctor, but it's a PhD, so don't ever let him trick you into thinking he's a medical doctor. But Tom actually speaks around the country and has every designation you could imagine. He is truly very well educated. Sean O'Connor is a great attorney who these live streams would have never happened if he did not help me in the beginning, and he actually helps a lot of people all the time on the side. Dave Byrne I've known for a long time. He is a well-respected attorney in 3 states. The only thing that he does is that I don't like, he feeds bananas to deer, and I don't like that about him. I just met, he never smiles, Harmony. It's very rarely to get a laugh out of Dave. Kevin, I just met Kevin. I don't know a thing about him, but I thought he did a great job today, and his answers were great, and he's been a good sport. Harmony, I don't know anything about you, but I like your style of dating already. Corey is an attorney in Florida. Corey, I've gotten to know. Corey's a very interesting person. I'd like to visit with Corey when I'm in Florida next and hang out. Joe, I've just met a couple times. Joe, you're a very good communicator, if you don't mind me saying. John is an attorney. He doesn't like to admit this. He knows everything about everything. He will not admit that he does, but he does. He's very well established. But John never tells me that I'm right 100%, Harmony, ever. Never happens. Okay, here we go. Tough questions and thought-provoking answers. Audience, I want your questions too. Please start sending them in. In the meantime, I am going to go with what I have, and I have a couple polls in the beginning just to test our audience knowledge while we're getting rolling here. And the first one is, and I'm not going to launch I'll launch the poll first. That's probably the best way to do it. And then I'll go to the lawyers while it's being launched. During prep, okay, I can't put the whole question in the poll, so you have to listen to the question. An association attorney is representing 2 board members in a discrimination case. During the prep, one board member confesses to the lawyer that he alone discriminated against the resident. The lawyer must, A, represent both and not reveal the confession, B, withdraw from representing both clients, C, reveal the confession to the court, or D, drop the confessing client but continue with the other. And lawyers, you can skip this one if you want to, because I just kind of threw it out there. So I'm going to end the poll. Our audience is saying 54% said that they have to represent both and not reveal the confession. I usually know a lot. I must admit, audience, I don't know the answer to this. It seems pretty complicated. Harmony, I picked the hard one right in the beginning. I love to throw hard ones out there. I did go to ChatGPT to see what its answer was, but I will start with the attorneys. Dave Byrne.
So this scenario is there's a lawsuit going on, and you represent the board members individually and the association.
Yeah. There's 2 board members, and you're representing the association. Maybe 2 board members are there. Maybe you need to change the circumstances. Maybe I didn't know enough. I got that part wrong. But one board member says, "Hey, I'm guilty," and my other board member is not. Do you have an obligation?
Yeah. The other they need separate lawyers, I think, at that point.
Oh, really? Okay. Do you have to divulge to?
I think so.
Do you have to? Does an attorney have to
No,
divulge?
I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what the other guys say, but you may have to withdraw as counsel to both clients.
Okay. Sean
That's
O'Connor.
certainly what you'd have to do in North Carolina. You wouldn't be able to continue. You could not divulge it, but you would have a conflict of interest that would
Right.
probably
Yeah.
prohibit you from
Yeah.
representing anybody.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then Harmony, just so you know, I'm going to go around and make sure I get to everybody. That way I don't
Okay.
have people talking over themselves. So Harmony, you're saying, can you give me that answer again? I'm sorry.
Sure. In North Carolina and in a lot of states that follow the federal rules, that would be a conflict of interest that would prohibit you from remaining as counsel for either of those parties, and likely the association as well.
Sean, I could definitely see this happening. Does it ever happen?
Well, I think it's an odd scenario in the sense that the attorney for the association is representing the board members in their individual capacity to begin with. I think that's probably not in most cases how it would be framed up. But if that were the case, then I'm definitely in agreement that with this disclosure, it creates a conflict that would require withdrawal.
So Corey, you're hanging around with the board, you're representing the association, and someone brings this disclosure. What do you think?
I think Sean hit it on the head. It depends who the actual defendants in the case are. If the defendant is just the association, you can continue representing the association, and it's still the plaintiff's obligation to prove the elements of its claim. So, and as a defendant, even if, they say, yeah, I discriminated, they're still entitled to a defense, and there's more factors than just the overall, was it done, or what is, are there damages? There's a lot going on besides was there discrimination or was there not. So, it depends. Lawyer answer.
Yeah. John.
Yeah, I agree with everything that was said. But I think the hypothetical probably was if the association is a defendant and then you have witnesses, two board members, and one admits that they did something illegal. You don't have to divulge it. You still have to defend them.
Okay, so
right. I mean, and it's fun. Sorry, Ray. In that scenario, it's kind of funny because I'm sure we've all had clients. The association is the only defendant. It wouldn't shock us when one of our board members like, oh, wait, I actually did that. I'm sure that wouldn't shock us.
And, I appreciate too when you guys change the scenario so there's a lesson to be learned from it like you just did. So by all means do that. In that case, Dave, you don't have any responsibility to pass that along, right? Because it already happened, right?
Well, you definitely can't reveal. This is definitely
Right.
not one of the situations where you're able to reveal the confidential communication, because as long as the board member's on the board and you're representing the association, that communication, at least I think, as this has been described, has been imparted to you as in the context of your representation of the corporation. So it's definitely a privileged communication. And like I said jokingly before, it wouldn't be the first time that I've heard a board member admit to something that the association was accused of doing.
And Harmony, I'm going to go ahead, Corey.
My clients are always innocent.
Right. Harmony, I kind of wanted to leave it because I don't want people to be afraid to communicate with their attorney. You should feel comfortable to tell your attorney. Can you take it from there just about anything? Maybe that's wrong. And then I'm going to go to insurance.
No, you're exactly right. I did insurance defense work for community associations for 15 years. We were always in that tripartite relationship. And I had a situation where we were representing the board and the individual owners, which we try not to do. And in that case, a board member disclosed that he had secretly made a racist video and sent it out. And that is a situation where that was going to scuttle us, and we had to withdraw from both. So going back to Sean's comment, usually individuals need their own attorney separate to avoid the situation in the first place.
See, Joe, my scenarios are not totally bizarre because this industry is so bizarre. There's always if I have 10 people, 9 people or 8 people on here, somebody's seen it. Joe, where are we? Is there an insurance aspect to this? Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't.
There usually is. I mean, so in this situation, I mean, we're talking about directors and officers liability. So if you have a circumstance where somebody's being represented as an individual, that's kind of a red flag to me to suggest that perhaps they didn't get coverage under the directors and officers liability policy, which would obviously potentially lead to the fact that anytime you have an intentional act under the D&O, generally not going to be covered. So if that came to light, there's certainly a possibility that the carrier denied coverage. In most cases, the D&O policy is going to assign its own counsel. Depending on the carrier provisions of the policy, they might allow for counsel of the association to be used at a predetermined hourly rate, whatever the carrier will provide. So that would be up, for the provisions of the policy. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different aspects of it. There could be exclusions related to one of the common ones is insured versus insured. So if you've got two board members discriminating against one another, there may not be any coverage in that kind of a circumstance. So there's certainly a lot of different avenues on the insurance to look at here as well.
Okay, and I'll jump to you in a second, Greg. Corey, intentional act. So I'm curious, and someone else is asking me. A board member admits it was an intentional act, right? So now, let's say you're representing them, not the insurance company, right? They didn't want, and also I'll throw, what happens if it's the insurance attorney? Isn't that kind of like, now it's kind of like they admitted that it was an intentional act and the insurance company is covering them, but they shouldn't be. Does the attorney have any obligation to report that to the insurance company?
Remember, any communications with your attorney is like I think Dave said before, is a privileged communication. So it would if it came out in a deposition or during testimony,
not a deposition,
or just otherwise in discovery. But if it's a one-on-one communication, I think there is a privilege element, but there's also a potential insurance fraud element, I would think also. So I would look into that as well.
So it's an interesting one. Sean O'Connor, commentary.
Yeah, I mean, going to that tripartite relationship that Harmony mentioned, when you're representing an insured, your duty of loyalty is to that insured. So if that person reveals to you that they did something that would impact coverage, you definitely cannot, under that duty of loyalty, go and then tell that to the insurance company so that they can deny coverage. I mean, that would be a breach of your ethical duty as an attorney.
Harmony.
Yeah.
Agree?
Agreed.
Okay. John, commentary?
Agreed. You are an advocate and you have to be zealous in your advocacy for your client, even if they're not the best of people.
Dave Byrne. Any additional?
I'll add there's a very convoluted sort of fact pattern here with this, but I'll add that in some states like New Jersey, the law imposes on carriers an obligation to allow the insured to engage his or her own lawyer, especially if the rates can be addressed, if the rates can be agreed upon, like if there's a reservation of rights. If a carrier is trying to maybe reserve the right to deny coverage at the end, based on what is revealed during the course of the case, then at least New Jersey Supreme Court has taken the position that puts the insurance company in too much enviable position, and they shouldn't be able to drive the lawyer and control the lawyer, so the lawyer can drive the case towards something that's excluded.
Okay, we're losing here a little bit too, Dave. Oh, by the way, Tom and Kevin, you guys can drop off because I'm not gonna have any more legal stuff. I don't want to make you guys stand there. Kevin, thank you so much for today. Much appreciated. Say again where you're from so people know.
Philadelphia. First Service Residential.
Thank you, Kevin, for being. I'm not gonna ask you to make any legal commentary. Tom, same thing. I don't think we're gonna ask you for any legal commentary. Tom, your book is available, so if people want to get it, I recommend, and you're available to teach CMCA courses, right?
Correct. And new course coming out for burnout.
Okay, I'll let you guys drop off so you're not just sitting there. I'm sorry. Greg, I'm going to give you the last word on this. So we have a case where we know an intentional act is not covered by insurance, but the client tells the attorney that they did an intentional act. And I'm going to go one step further before we just move on. And what happens if the case is already halfway through and the insurance company finds out about this?
Well, talked about here is insurance companies, when they take in that claim and they're assigning lawyers and they're telling you about your coverage, they'll issue what's known as a reservation of rights letter, and they're going to cite some of the coverages and exclusions and et cetera in this letter. They have the right later. You may have coverage and you may have defense now, but if the circumstances and situations do change down the road, it could change the coverage and you could no longer have coverage in the future.
Okay, excellent. I'm not even going to show the ChatGPT answer. I mean, how many times do we have to say, you better check with an attorney. Don't depend on ChatGPT, because I'll tell you that it's not even close. Sometimes, Harmony, I like to show the ChatGPT answer because sometimes it's just, I want to show people, like, don't listen to Chat.
Why not?
I meant you would think people would know better, but sometimes they don't. So, okay, here's another one. And this one kind of has a point about more about intent. So it's more of a legal aspect, but the boards and managers will maybe learn something, how they can look at something. I'm not going to do it as a poll. A resident who complained about pool hours is on video at the closed pool gate with a bolt cutter. He puts the bolt cutter on the chain, but then walks away. Is he guilty of attempt, or is he guilty of anything? I will start with Harmony on this.
Probably not. I mean, you can be a jerk. We don't tend to fine or pursue enforcement for just being a jerk.
I like it. I like that as a tagline. I like it a lot. Corey.
I agree. As long as there was no damage, then I don't think there was any issues.
John.
Yeah, I mean, civilly, you need damages, so I don't see damages.
Sean.
I mean, this sounds like a multi-state bar question. I mean, I think technically the answer is going to be that the person took some substantial step toward the crime, which is maybe going to qualify as an attempt. But I think it'd be a tough prosecution if that's really what happened, and nothing really occurred.
But Dave, can the association take any action?
Different. Yeah, question. I was wondering what sort of the question was. So
yeah.
I don't know enough about. You guys can hear. You can hear me, okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not so sure that. At least I'm not, capable of necessarily talking about what a crime is and what a crime isn't. But from an association standpoint, like what John said, from an action standpoint, if there's been no damage, you really don't have a claim. But you might have a rule that prohibits people from messing around with the gate, which I guess this could be a violation of, right?
Okay, excellent. All right, let me find some of the other questions I got from the audience by email. Any additional commentary on this? Don't worry, the rest of them are pretty easy. So those were the two hard ones that I tracked down, and I do change them around a little bit here. Okay, an owner who plans to run for the board stood up at a meeting and said they are in good standing. Somebody lied, which they are not. Because they went public with their status, may the board communicate that they are not, and that they owe money. This actually comes up all the time in different forms, so feel free to change it around a little bit. And I'll start with John on this. Sometimes you guys don't disclose who owes money and who doesn't, because if you're wrong, it could be a big problem. Can you just make it all make sense, John, and figure this one out?
Yeah. So. Good standing, shaming owners for being delinquent, involves privacy rights. Is it confidential? I think some boards go a little bit too far, thinking anytime you talk about anyone's finances, it has to be executive session because that's all private. But if someone isn't paying for years, it does impact the association's finances, and I think to a certain extent it can be disclosed. You just have to be careful about the precise amounts and bankruptcies. But in this case, I don't see the privacy concerns because as you mentioned, the owner admitted it.
And this would be, I would consider this common, Corey, right? People running for office lie about their status with the association. Does that give the association a right to tell the truth, whether it's advisable?
I think the better response by the board would be to say something along the lines of, thank you for your comment. Why don't you come take a look at your account after the meeting? We have it right here. I try to avoid public debate at board meetings. Nobody really wants to hear it. It drags meetings along, and the board can easily, by implying, hey, you might want to take a look at your ledger after the meeting, convey the message they want to convey without necessarily divulging any information about the actual delinquency.
Harmony, election stuff, right? It seems to be one of the top items in our industry where there's lawsuits. I don't agree, disagree. And what about this question?
I love this question because, to John's point, I do think some boards get too concerned about unfair and deceptive trade practices or unfair debt collection concerns. If something is a matter of public record through a lien, I'm a lot more comfortable with some public comment about it, particularly if the owner has brought that up. If you simply have an owner challenging whether or not they have met the standards to run for a position on the board of directors, I have been supportive of boards saying our records show you're not in good standing if some formal action has been taken to determine that. And a lot of governing documents will say you can suspend owner rights, you can make a determination. And often with board elections in North Carolina and South Carolina, we have boards that will publish a list of those who are in good standing and eligible to vote and to run for the board. So that then is a much clearer situation where if your name's on there, your name's not. I think it would sort of depend, but if there's been a hearing and due process and there's been a determination, I'm okay with us saying, no, you're not in good standing, but we're not going to talk about the particulars of the account.
Dave, this could be extremely frustrating for boards.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think Corey's point is a really good one in the context of a board meeting. Like what your response is in the moment, whether you choose to get into an argument with someone about whether they owe money or not. There's a dynamic there that has to be respected. In terms of the information, though, in New Jersey, for instance, it's very clear. This information is not private. Owners have a statutory right to look at everyone's account. And this hyper-vigilant thing that Harmony and John were talking about is on the money. This idea that somehow these things are secret. They're just not. I mean, they're just not secret. Now, it's also clear that if you're in New Jersey, for instance, and you want to share your accounting records with owners, and those records include delinquency lists, that's completely appropriate. But if you share them with the intent to shame or embarrass, that's a different question. If you share them with the intent to educate, you're going to be cool. And God help you if the information is not right. That'll be another problem. But if the information is accurate and your intention is to educate, this information is just not secret. It's just not. But Corey's point was good about how you handle it in the context of a meeting. I mean, these are the kinds of things you don't like argue about in front of 50 or 60 people.
Sean,
usually.
Thanks, Dave. Sean, there's 50, 60 people. The person's running for the board position. The board members are talking. It's kind of an election get-together kind of scenario. The board knows that this guy's not in good standing, and there he is. He stands up and says, I'm in good standing. Where does that leave the board member? Can they?
I mean, if the governing documents provide that people that are not in good standing may not run and may not assume that seat if elected, then it would be entirely appropriate for the board to set the record straight and say that, per the association's records, you're not in good standing, you're not eligible, and advise the people there for the election that this is someone who is not going to be able to serve if you vote for them. That can be done without disclosing the details about their account. That would be more than necessary and would be not appropriate to say, well, this is how much his balance is. You don't need to say that to state the truth that he's not in good standing.
Okay. Greg, insurance aspects to this.
Yes, the attorneys did a great job answering this question. From an insurance standpoint, the one thing we want to avoid in this is a discrimination type claim. You hear us talk about that a lot, but you heard the attorney say, we want to make sure this information is accurate and the way it is communicated, and they're not shaming someone and we're not discriminating against them, or we get a lawsuit back that he was not eligible to run for the board, but he actually was and the information wasn't correct. And we do see those types of claims.
Joe, let's say this person gets elected to the board, right? And then some kind of, I'm kind of changing the question here a little bit, Joe, since I think Greg covered it. If not, you can add to it. But someone, if an act takes place before someone's actually on the board, even if they get on the board, that's not considered a board-on-board lawsuit, correct? Can you talk about that a little bit, Joe?
Well, yeah, I mean, depending on the provisions of the definition of who an insured is, right? So, I mean, that would be a big piece of deciding whether or not the insured versus insured exclusion would even apply in that situation. But generally, no. If it's an owner and they're not defined under the definition of insured, then it wouldn't have been an issue. But yes, of course, once they're on the board and there's some type of a dispute and there's no decorum in the meeting and they're just kind of going back and forth and making allegations that are just outlandish, then yeah, you're going to run into some difficulty there. That's why it's very important that these boards maintain their decorum, in all circumstances. That way, they're only stating the facts. And in a lot of cases, these are things that are not privacy related. If it's something that, depending on the jurisdiction, as the attorneys have noted, this could be publicly accessible information and everybody has a right to know it. It's just a matter of how you communicate it to the person making the assertion that may not be accurate.
Okay. This question has actually come up before, believe it or not. It's a real question. Can a board member keep a $1,000 gift card won on a sponsor hosted education event? Let me add something to that. The board pays for a board member to go to an event. The association pays for the cost of it, and they win $1,000. And then the other board members say, "Oh, wait a minute, we paid for you to go there, so you don't get to keep the $1,000." I think this actually really did take place in some manner because the board members hated each other and the one person was just looking for an excuse to get at the other person. All right, so Harmony, I'm going to throw this one at you. I know maybe this is a hard one, maybe it's not. I don't know. Or you could change the circumstances around a little bit to get to a learning point here. But
I'd love to go to an event where they were giving away $1,000 gift cards. That's a little bit pricier than what I tend to see. The $100 gift cards. I think it's going to depend on factors, and that's the lawyer answer, right? I mean, is this a something where the association spent $20 to send the person to a presentation, or do they spend $150? I do think that is relevant. Generally, I would say that any money that came from that event that was funded by the association would become an association, asset that the association would get to have, and we would tell the owners the board member not to keep it because it's a bad look more than anything else. I'd feel a little bit different about a $30 Starbucks gift card.
Interesting. So this, kind of like it's going to depend for sure. Corey.
I think a lot of it is state specific as well, because each state has, potential anti-kickback, laws, because this vendor is this is money coming from a vendor to a board member. And if that board member, if there was a contract pending or a contract that came before the board related to that vendor, would that need to be disclosed? I think each state would have its own specific requirements for that. Whether that $1,000 is the board members individually who won or the association's money, I personally, I think, at least in Florida, I think it would probably be the individual. But what was it, a raffle? Was it, how many people were entering the raffle? Was it just that one board member? I think, it's good to check with the association's attorney, figure it out after.
John, a lot of people in the audience have fellow board members that get along with great, right? And they would never imagine this scenario. But, for a lot of us in this industry, we know there's plenty of boards where they're just looking to start trouble with each other every chance they get. Is this one of those cases?
Oh yeah, most boards get along, but there are plenty that don't. That's what it sounds like. I agree with Harmony. The amount involved is that's a lot of money. But putting that aside, unless there's an expectation that you're actually going to win, that's why you go to these things. It's random. I don't know that the winning, was something that's why they go to these events. While I find it hard to believe that such a high gift card would be given out, the randomness of it, and I don't think there's any expectation. states like New York, they actually have amounts that you like for gambling. If you want to play bingo, you might want to look at those amounts. But um, I don't see I don't see anything here other than the alarm over how high the gift card was.
It's interesting what you guys focus on. That's why I think it's so critical that people check with their attorneys, because you guys come up with aspects that you guys are concentrating on the dollar amount. Like that would have never been something, obviously, that I was really looking at. Sean O'Connor, let me change it. Let's say it's $300. Let me make it a little bit more tougher.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the provider of that prize money is a company that is a vendor of the association, then that at the very least needs to be disclosed, and that recipient, that board member recipient of that gift card, needs to recuse from any vote or any discussion involving a decision about that vendor. But I would make another suggestion, and that is that the optimally the association should have a policy about this. If we're going to say that, okay, that's got to be given to the association and put in the association's general fund, well, that's something that should be established in advance, rather than person comes back and just mentions offhand, I want a gift card. Oh, well, that's not yours. You have to give that to the association. That's where the dispute arises, is this should have been planned for, and a rule should have been established about that ahead of time as a policy.
Dave, these questions sound silly, but you guys have actually kind of already given 4 or 5 different versions, from what I heard, and nobody should be listening to me because I could be not hearing properly. They're not silly when they actually happen and the dollar amount is low enough, or other circumstances. I don't think you gave commentary on this yet. Did you, Dave?
No, I don't think so. The policy point that Sean made is a good one, in so much as it would preclude the recipient of the gift card. It would preclude him or her from successfully, I think, going to court and claiming possession of the money, because that board member would have accepted the association would have sponsored the board member's participation in the event, and a condition of that would be board members agree ahead of time to waive any rights to gift cards and gifts and stuff. That's where a policy would probably really be helpful, and a board member who wanted to keep the money would be like, listen, you signed this thing, this is our policy, we wouldn't have sent you if you're going to keep it. But the one last thing I'll say is the amount of money, we're all focused on the amount of money because it's suspicious. That's why. I mean, we're honing in on that because nobody gives out $1,000 gift card, and we all know that this is not like the New York State Lottery, where if you're a company and you invite your clients to a seminar, you can very easily make the lottery go the way you want it to go. So, I mean, it's suspicious. That's why.
Greg, I'll give you the circumstances, even though it's not a legal question, just in case I didn't touch upon something to the attorneys, you could help me out. I can tell you right now, I visit a lot of high-rise associations and cities and things like that, and they pay for their board members sometimes to go to some pretty expensive events. You know what I mean? They buy a table here, they buy a table there, and they do give away some high-value prizes at these events. And there's a lot of reasons that the associations pay for these tables of people to go, and it's never been a problem. But some of the prizes are substantial. I don't know. What do you think about that? And take it from there.
No, it definitely happens all the time. The only thing I know, because it's applicable in insurance too, is each state does have usually dollar amounts set to these things. And like for insurance, there's anti-rebating laws and things like that. So some of this may be set and the vendor doesn't actually realize it. But yeah, it definitely happens. And you get a very expensive dinner even. Could be outside that state's guidelines.
Joe, what's interesting about this industry and about attorneys in general, which I really enjoy listening to, is their thought process, is how you go from something that sounds like a silly question in the beginning to some of the advice being given, if I heard it correctly, that you should have a policy in place. I think that's what's interesting about our industry, because this scenario does exist. Joe, any commentary? You see a lot of things.
I think the optics of it are absolutely terrible because presumably it's an event where you have vendors that you're doing business with already, or I think it was Sean's point, there could be pending contracts out there with large vendors. We're talking 7-figure plus contracts. Somebody gets $1,000 gift card. That goes out throughout the membership. That takes on a life of its own. And then you see all these stories about boards that become entitled. There's thievery. It's just not a good practice in general. I think having that policy in place with a certain threshold dollar value perhaps is a good route to go. But we've seen some major crime claims that have happened over the years with associations and massive thievery. And I think the mentality begins with that sense of entitlement where they get into this position and they're like, hey, I'm being treated so poorly. Now I need to take it to the next level. Not everybody thinks like that, obviously. You're going to have some people that do have that mentality more so than others. But there are documented, verified, multi-million-dollar schemes that we've seen just locally here in South Florida that are just shocking. And it makes you wonder how much of that is kind of going on under the surface with this type of a practice.
Yeah, and I think, Joe, you mentioned optics. I mean, if everyone followed good optics, we wouldn't probably need an hour to 2-hour live stream, right? So
Sure,
unfortunately, some people are completely blind to the optics, and maybe they never had a career where these things mattered, right? Maybe they legitimately are not worried about it. There's a follow-up question. If you're saying if the association pays for you to go to the event, what if you pay your own way? Does that make a difference? Now, I want to kind of jump off this, but I'll go through the panel pretty quickly. Harmony, what about if the board member pays their own way? Can I give you my legal guess? I like to do this, Harmony.
Sure.
And you tell me if I'm right or wrong. I'm going to say that makes a huge difference, but go ahead. You tell me.
It may make a difference, but going back to the point about the policy, I think that's important. And we really can't overstate the optics issue here. There's national litigation about kickback schemes and fee sharing with various companies. Everyone is looking at this, and a board of directors can steal $5 and suddenly it's an uproar and it's a problem for the association for years. I'd feel better about it if they paid their own way, absolutely. But given a huge amount of money, I still think we would want to look at the circumstances and determine, does this pass the smell test?
And by the way, Harmony, this is the first time you've been here. If I ever go to the next attorney and I kind of piggybacked off something you said and I got it wrong, by all means, stop me, okay? Because I don't want to do that. Sean, let's get away from it being a lot of money. Let's keep it around the $200 range, right? Somebody pays their own way. I'm going to tell you right now that most board members are going to feel entitled to keep that money, which I don't even know how I feel about it. And forget the let's forget about the optics. We already know that optics matter, but to me, that seems to make a difference. Do you see a difference in it? And I want to move quickly on this if we can.
Well, I mean, I think in the absence of a policy that money's got to be, given to the association, if the board member pay their own way, that's certainly going to be a stronger argument from their perspective that they're entitled to keep the gift card. But what it doesn't change, if the provider of the money is a company that a vendor that the association has a relationship with, is the obligation to disclose it and recuse any participation in any voting or decision or discussion about that vendor. And also the fact that it's a bad look. I mean, that doesn't change. So the main things don't change is what I would say.
The bad look part we got down. Okay. Corey, what I'm kind of hearing is, and I'm surprised we ended up here, you should have a policy if your association is in the habit of paying for people to go to things, and some associations do that. Maybe if you pay your own way though, and maybe if it's on a vendor, like these community events, right? They're not vendors. Maybe it doesn't matter as much. I don't know. Can you just wrap us up, Corey, and then I'll go to the other attorneys and we'll move on?
Yeah, I think as long as the association's not doing business with whoever is donating the gift card or whoever is providing the gift card, or has potential business, the whole idea is you don't want it to look like a kickback. And as long as it's a true, raffle win, bottle of wine, whatever, then I don't think it would be an issue.
John, people are asking me about how about if it's a manager?
A property manager getting the gift card?
Yeah, and I'm going to take it further. I guess it may matter. It may depend too if it's self-managed or it's a management company.
Well, I mean, so we're talking about avoiding the optics. The optics look worse when it's a manager,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It looks even worse.
So are we really just talking about optics here at the end of the day, Dave? Really, legalities is kind of like whatever, but it's all
Well,
about the
not if
optics.
not if it's actually a kickback.
Right.
I mean, a lot of the facts are really important. You move a fact one way, board member paying himself moves maybe something a little bit to the left on the ledger, right? And that makes it a little better. Going to an event that is a industry event, like a CAI event, where the vendors contribute gifts, but they're legitimately chosen by an independent person who runs the industry group. Meaning, it's not like you pull out the one you pull out a card for the guy you want to win. That would be a fact that maybe it wouldn't be a kickback, but it just really all depends. I know at the CAI event in New Jersey, um, one of the things that CAI had started to do years ago to encourage attendance by board members was every hour, and I'm surprised I just remember this now, but every hour the CAI group gives away $1,000 based
Yeah.
on registration. So they pull a number out of your registration. I assume it's random. It could be fixed. I have no idea. But the vendor's not directly giving the gift, but that's a fact that would maybe make it so the board member could keep the money. I mean, maybe.
Okay, let's take a step back. All right. Thank you very much, Dave. I know CI New Jersey, and I don't know, it could be fixed, but I would bet money that it's not. But you guys see it
Probably
all.
not.
So
Probably not.
nothing being attorneys like cops and things, nothing would surprise you that people do. But it is true. Dave is right. Like everybody thinks these questions are kind of ridiculous, but that takes place at CI New Jersey. They used to give cruises away. Remember, Dave, they had values of $7,000-8,000 cruises they were giving away. And these are managers who are going and winning these prizes, and they're winning them from vendors. We've had this discussion at live streams before about CI events in particular, and managers winning gift cards from vendors. And I think we'll kind of steer clear of it because we could be spending like another half hour on it. But I kind of hate to do that to the audience. If you guys think you could sum it up pretty quick, maybe you can't. So, all right, let me go to Greg really quick. Greg, any commentary where we're at so far to add insurance-wise?
I
There's
don't.
none, right?
It's the optics of how it really,
Okay.
really looks bad.
We got it. The optics. Yeah. All right. Joe, and there's no insurance aspects to this, right?
I think we've pretty much beat this one to death, Ray, to be honest with you.
We're done. All right.
Yeah.
And we can assume that the optics look really bad at the CI event too, possibly if you're a manager and you win a prize of a substantial amount of money. If you win a bottle of wine, nobody's going to probably care. Is anybody?
The optics, I would say, Ray, the optics look better to people like us because we know the particular facts of the CAI situation, but to regular people, naturally suspicious and skeptical of power, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that's a real, yeah, okay, I was sure that was an independent kind of thing. I mean, you're going to be naturally sort of skeptical of the story you get back. Well, we would know it's probably legitimate, but other people wouldn't.
I appreciate you saying that, Dave, because that's part of these live streams, right? People don't understand, like everybody here wants to learn, and in their mind, they wouldn't do anything wrong, but I'm hearing from like residents and things like that all the time. So you're 100% right, Dave. I meant that's exactly what these live streams are about, making board members and managers aware that these things don't look good and they're not worth it. Okay. We have a resident who refuses to shower before, and this is something that came in. I don't know when, and it sounds silly, but I'm telling you, it happens.
Corey, we told you not to call in your own personal problems again. Jesus, man.
We have a resident who refuses to shower before entering the pool. I know it sounds stupid, but this is the stuff people do. Don't ask me why. They do. They can go pretend if they want, but they don't. They want to start trouble. We have a resident who refuses to shower before entering the pool, which we have a rule. He says his rule is unspecific on what actually qualifies as someone showering. Therefore, there can therefore be no rule and no enforcement. Now, this sounds ridiculous, but this guy's basically saying, look, unless you can tell me what showering really means, I'm not even going to go even close to the shower. All right. I will start with Dave on this one and go around.
I would hope a client would never contact me with this problem, because I don't know how you would prove. First of all, if you really want to go into it, the association would, I think, have to establish at least some baseline that someone does have to shower before they go into a pool. I don't know. I've seen millions of people go into pools that I have no idea where they've been before they went in. I thought that's why we had chlorine. But other than that, I don't know how you'd prove what a shower is. Well, I mean, the whole thing is, who's
Okay.
your witness? How much soap the guy used? It's
You're
insane. I don't know. I would hope I would never get asked this question.
okay. So this is a real question, a real scenario, but you're forgetting the point here. I'm going to John now. The point is this person did this on purpose. They could go and pretend that they took a shower and no one would care. This is what people do. Okay. Now you did mention something interesting, Dave. I will tell you that this is a rule in many, many, many associations that you have to take a shower before going into the pool. I don't know the hygiene part of it. Maybe John does. He knows everything. But John, the question is, you got this jerk who just can't even play along, and he comes up with this, and you could spread this out a little bit, John, which what I'm hoping you guys do sometimes is you don't have a really good rule about what showering means.
Yeah.
So does that mean it can't even be a rule?
So if a rule, I think the person here is trying to contend that the rule is vague, and if it's too vague, you can't enforce it. And courts, yeah, the courts don't like enforcing vague rules, and the easy fix is just, clean it up, make it less vague, give examples. For example, a shower consists of, even if it doesn't take much to do it, boards don't have to go to the unit owners typically to amend their rules. You could do it at the next meeting.
Oh my gosh, John, I'm going to have to disagree. Now we're making boards, and I know, by the way, audience, when I disagree, it means nothing because I know nothing. Always remember that. My opinion means nothing. Just forget I even said it. But John, are you stating that boards now have to spend time making up the parameters of what is considered a shower?
Well, listen,
Don't have a rule.
it can't hurt, right? And then when you enforce, how do you enforce a rule like that? You can only warn and fine. So you might as well beef it up a little before you warn and fine.
I agree. I agree with your point 100%. It's just ridiculous that we find ourselves in this industry in these kind of ridiculous scenarios. Sean.
It happens often.
Yeah, it does. Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah, if a client came to me with this issue, what I'd advise them is that it's perfectly fine to have this rule, but just recognize that it's going to be an honor system situation, and you're not going to be able to police it. If somebody doesn't take a shower but goes in the pool anyway, you're not going to have any recourse. You just hope that by having the rule that people will follow it, but if they don't, not a lot you can do. I mean, it's just you're not going to be able to, I don't think you're going to be able to make it more specific because, even if you did, how are you going to check on that? How are you going to prove that?
We already know that part, right?
It's not possible.
But what I heard you say is don't make it an honor system, right? So Corey, working on what Sean said, make it an honor system. So instead of making it a rule, make it a suggestion because, you guys say also just don't bother getting involved in it. Well, the other person's going to complain that does take a shower. They're going to be all over it, So go ahead, Corey.
There has to be a reasonableness to the rule. If the, I don't know the science behind it, but it's not uncommon for public pools to have showers, and the rule is to rinse off before you get in the pool. Rinse off sand or I don't even know what the science behind it is, but if there's a reasonableness to the functionality of the pool where it could damage the pool if you don't rinse off beforehand, then I could understand enforcing that rule, suspending the use rights to the pool based on witness, affidavits or whatnot, if you really want to go that far. And me personally, I would probably request a reasonable accommodation for disability against cold water, so that shower should be warm before I rinse off.
Do I have to add that as a question now? I mean, Harmony's
Oh,
already
definitely.
Harmony's already disgusted with the way this live stream is going with the questions we're having already. Do we have to let her know that may come up in the future? That she has to give an expert opinion on what water temperature there should be? All right, Harmony, we're talking about, you know what we're talking about here. Kind of just run with it.
Over my dead body would I go in a public pool, and that is based on
Right.
years of doing this. There's no scenario where I would. I'm going to counter your question with my favorite personal, no, number 3 favorite story. A gentleman who refused to follow the rules about appropriate swim attire at a pool. He had a custom Lycra swimsuit made that exactly matched his body tone in every portion of his body. It looked like he was naked. He was not. I mean, that people will go to great lengths to combat these rules and regulations. There's really not much you can do. But again, I would have everyone leave this with the understanding they should never go in these pools or hot tubs.
Harmony, in that case, please tell me that the board just ignored him. Please tell me that everyone just ignored him because, right, what else?
They sent me a lot of photos of it first, and then they agreed to ignore it.
But let me guess, there were probably some residents and owners that were so upset and expected the board to do something about this.
Oh, absolutely.
Ridiculous. Okay. Once again, audience, my opinion means nothing. Always remember that disclaimer. Harmony, even though my opinion means nothing, I can't help but give it. You'll notice. So the panel's used to it. All right. Joe, I'm thinking of an aspect of this that, you know, there's a rule and not everyone's following it, but it's not being enforced.
It seems like a selective enforcement scenario. The board would be opening themselves up for, you know, potential D&O exposure, because how the heck do you enforce something like this? I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to have someone standing out there all day watching every single person that's coming and going in and out of the pool. So it seems like an unenforceable rule. You're going to have a situation where somebody's going to be aggrieved, doesn't like somebody else, uses it to single someone out. It's just not a good rule. I mean, it's going to be very difficult to really enforce it. I just don't know how that would come about realistically.
People are telling me in certain, the audience is telling me, doesn't mean it's true. They're telling me like in South Carolina, it's required to take a shower before you go in the pool. People are telling me it isn't a hygiene issue. It has to do with detergents and dyes with clothing. It affects chemicals. People are telling me that this is a legitimate thing. Back to what Corey was saying, if you could prove that it's well, Corey, I don't want to speak for you, but that is kind of what you were saying, right? If you could you confirm that, please?
If there's a reasonable nexus of why it needs to be done, then it you know, I'm not suggesting put a camera faced at the shower, but if there's a known, you know, if you know, you can prove a case through eyewitness, you know, affidavits and testimony, and if there's damage to the pool, maybe there's a reasonableness to it.
Oh, all right, Greg. So the whole point of this, and then we're going to do closing thoughts and wrap this one up, because this one got like really in some weird weeds today. I just want boards and managers to think before they speak. And, you know, some of you attorneys said don't call, but then I got insurance people telling us it could be a discrimination case. So, you know, it's hard being a board member and manager. It's tough. All right. And we're going to go to closing thought with the attorney, so you'll have a chance to tell everybody if I'm completely stupid what I just said. Greg, really quick, closing thoughts or this.
So if you're going to choose to enforce a rule like this, make sure you're enforcing it evenly and accurately across everyone and documenting it all the same. That's just what's going to help you for insurance purposes. Make sure the rule is enforced evenly.
John's always right. And John was saying you have to define what a shower is, and he's going to end up being right from what I'm hearing. All right, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, these are all scenarios that are an excellent opportunity to confer with legal counsel, make sure that the manager is recommending that. That's the way for the board to protect itself with the business judgment rule, and make sure that it's not going out on a limb with do-it-yourself actions unwisely.
Dave.
Like I always say, don't have any rules if you're not prepared to enforce them. And I would say that if you're making a rule, Harmony kind of mentioned this a minute ago, sometimes people are going to come up to you and be like, hey, we should have a rule. I don't want to go in any pool where people are not taking showers. Your response is going to have to be, you're in the wrong place, buddy. I mean, this is a pool that is used by a lot of different people from a lot of different countries, a lot of different parts of society. And If you don't like it, you probably got to get your own pool.
Harmony, like 30 seconds, because I want to get done on time. Thanks.
People are nasty and we can't regulate around that.
You know, you have a lot of catchphrases, Harmony. I like that. Okay. Corey.
Just make sure the water's warm.
Oh, you're the water. You are a pain in the neck. Joe.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's just take a shower, people. Just take a shower. Stay clean.
You know, John, I got to say, we've been doing these live streams together for like 3.5 years, almost every week. And every now and then I doubt you and I say something on the live stream. You're always right. You seriously are. Like I thought it was ridiculous, honestly, about needing to define what a shower is. But now I've changed my mind based on everything I've heard today. Now,
Pure
once
luck.
again, big disclaimer, what I say doesn't mean anything. But go ahead, John, closing thoughts.
That's just pure luck. No, I mean, I guess my point was if you have a difficulty enforcing a rule, it's pretty easy to revise it and make it more enforceable.
Well, I want to appreciate everybody for being here so much. Harmony, it was nice meeting you. And Joe, nice to see you again. And we'll see everybody in a couple weeks. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks.